Today I am doing a review of the AnyTone Terminator two-way radio distributed by AnyTone Tech in the USA. My name is Brad and I'm a licensed amateur radio operator. My call letters are KG7NXH. I want to run you through the features and some of the functions of this new radio. This was just released a couple weeks ago. I've had about a week now to play with it, and I'm pretty impressed with the radio. So let's get to it and I'll start going through the features and functions. Okay, here's the radio. This is the AnyTone Terminator radio distributed by AnyTone Tech in the USA. The radio is made in China and it is a new entry into the VHF, UHF, basically dual band handheld radio market. Some of the features that make this radio unique are the fact that it can receive and or transmit on 6 bands. It receives AM broadcast, shortwave, FM broadcast, aircraft band 108 to 136 megahertz and AM, and then it will transmit VHF and UHF as well. So that's the basic overview of this radio. Let's take a closer look, go through some of the menus, some of the features that make this radio unique, and some of the things I like and don't like about it. Honestly though, I mostly like almost everything about this radio. In my opinion, this is probably the best Chinese dual band walkie-talkie out there. In fact, it's quite comparable to some other radios I have. Okay, this radio comes with a standard desk charger with a wall wart. I've got the radio in there right now. It's very firm fit. It is not going to wobble around when you're charging. It's very tight in there, makes very good contacts with the battery. Besides the wall wart and the desktop charger, there's also a DC in port on this radio right on the battery itself, and I'll see if I can get a good shot of that, and that's right here. So basically AnyTone Tech sells a DC adapter that you can plug in right there. It's probably about a 2.5 millimeter coaxial power connector that you can plug into this radio, charge it while you're using it. Okay, so that connector is right on the battery itself. So you can charge a spare battery or charge it while you're using the radio. I believe the adapter they sell is a cigarette lighter adapter, so you can power this radio in your car and keep it charged up while you're using it. Okay, you also get a fairly standard earpiece and microphone with the push-to-talk switch on it. This connector here is the standard connector, same thing used by Kenwood radios, Baofangs, and Wouxun radios. Very standard connector. Different mics will fit, work no problem. This is the earpiece, goes over your ear, and there's a little push-to-talk, and this has the microphone in it. Works okay. Audio's not great, but it's not bad. It's kind of standard. A lot of these radios come with this sort of thing. I've tested it, works fine. I probably won't use it much, but there it is. Okay, this radio uses the same type of antenna connection as like a Baofeng radio. The antenna itself is a SMA female connection. The radio side is an SMA male connection. Let me try to show you that a little bit better. Okay, so that's SMA male on the radio. So if you're looking for aftermarket antennas, you will want something that looks like this. That's an SMA female connection, not to be confused with the reverse polarity or RP SMA connector. Since we're looking at the top of the radio here, you got your volume knob here, and you got your channel VFO selector here. This has click detents. Pretty standard type setup. That's used for changing menu settings, changing channels, and changing frequencies. You also have, I guess, kind of an emergency alert button here. I'll never use it, but it's there. You push it and it sends off a siren tone. So this is the battery. You can see 2200 milliamp hours. I've been running this radio. This battery lasts a very long time. Pretty impressed with that. Here's your FCC certifications, battery. This is your belt clip here. Pretty standard, nothing special. It's metal base here. The base is metal. The belt clip itself is plastic. Not bad, not good. Works fine. I wouldn't be too rough with it though. One nice feature about this radio that I kind of discovered by accident, it might be in the manual, it might not, I don't know. When you're using an external speaker microphone, you got this little flap right here. That opens up, lets you have access to your speaker microphone. You can remove this completely by taking the battery off. It just pops out of here. It's kind of a rubbery sort of thing. It pops out of there, and now you don't have this in the way. So that's a nice feature. My Kenwood radio does the same thing. Really a nice feature. There's actually a lot of thoughtful touches on this radio, and this is just one of them. If you're going to use a speaker mic a lot, I recommend taking that off. It only takes a couple seconds and pops right back in. Very simple to do. Let me show you putting it back on here. Just get it right there and squeeze it on. There you go. Pops right back into place. This is back in. Everything's fine. Okay, since we got the battery out, might as well show you how this works. Standard setup. Battery slides in just like this. Clicks in. There's absolutely no play at all on this radio. The battery is very snug, very tight. Going back to the top of the radio, talked about the volume on-off switch, the selector knob, the antenna connections, the emergency button. I did not talk about the LED right here. This is 3 colors. It's either green, blue, or red. When you transmit, it turns red. Okay, it might look a little amber on the screen there. When VFO A receives a signal, it turns green, and when VFO B receives a signal, it turns blue. So the nice thing is you can see which VFO you're receiving on just by looking down. So if it's on your belt clip, you'll have no trouble knowing which of the 2 VFOs without looking on the screen. So how big is this radio? I got 4 radios here. The AnyTone is on the far right. On the far left, I have a Baofeng UV82. The next one is the Wouxun KG UV8D. Then I got the Kenwood TH D72A, followed by the AnyTone Terminator. It's actually the smallest of them all, but not by a large margin. It's probably very close in size to the Wouxun. Okay, here's a view from the top. You get an idea of the thickness of these radios. The Kenwood, very thick radio, but it's kind of a different radio anyway. But really, it's about the same thickness as the Baofeng and the Wouxun radios. Not bad at all. It fits very nicely in your hand. It's got a bit of a curved shape to it. Okay, here's a closer view of the 4 radios. So since we're comparing radios, I thought I'd take this opportunity to do an audio comparison between a few of these handhelds. The Wouxun, the AnyTone in the middle, and the Kenwood on the right-hand side. I've got them all tuned to the same weather channel. Well, I will in a minute here. And I'll turn them up individually so you can see how they all sound comparatively. Okay, let's start with the Wouxun over here.
1962. No precipitation fell today, which leaves the monthly total at 0.33 inches. The total precipitation for the year still stands at 1.
Okay, that's the Wouxun. Let's go over to the AnyTone.
Was 79 degrees, and the normal low is 55. Sunset tonight is at 6:43 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow is at 6:25 a.m. The NOAA weather radio broadcasts originating from...
Okay, let's go over to the Kenwood here.
TMSD for routine maintenance. We apologize for any disruptions. You are listening to NOAA Weather Radio KC 94. Phoenix, Arizona, serving South Central Arizona, including the greater Phoenix metropolitan area.
Okay, as I mentioned before, this radio has a lot of features, a lot of functionality. I will not be able to go through every single thing that this radio can do right now in this video. This is a basic review, but I do at least want to cover some of the important aspects of it and some of the things that I think people would find most interesting to know if they're thinking about buying something like this. Let's start by going through the menus to change the VFO and memory and how you choose between the two different tuners in this radio. Right down here, band key, this will toggle between the upper VFO, the lower VFO, or both VFOs. Right now it's displaying both. Hit the key once, upper VFO. Hit the key again, lower VFO. Hit it again. Now we're back to dual receive and duplex mode. To toggle your transmit between upper and lower, just hit main, the B main key. You'll see the arrow right there on the left goes between the two. One thing you'll notice as I'm toggling through this is that the H and L indicator is changing. Every channel that you have programmed into memory or the VFOs on the A and the B can be set to one of the three high, medium, or low power levels. So that can go individually by channel as well as by upper and lower VFO. The C key, V/M, that stands for VFO/memory. Basically just toggles between whether it's a memory location or the VFO. You can set either VFO to be a VHF or UHF. They can be the same or they can be different. So right now I'm at 146.52 VHF on top, UHF on the bottom. I can set the top VFO where the arrow is pointing to 446,000. Okay, no problem. For each VFO you can set the tuning step size. I think I have it set for 2.5 kilohertz right now. The default on the 440 band would be 25 kilohertz, but this will tune in whatever, anything from 2.5 I think up to 100 kilohertz. If we go down here, go to the B, I think it's set the same as well. So you can have them the same or they can be different. Okay. I mentioned that the power level can be set independently for VFO, each VFO, or for each memory channel. Let me show you how you set the power level. Everything starts with your function key right here. Well, almost everything. In this case, hit function. You see the little envelope icon up top. Hit low. Now high-low. It's now went from up to high. Hit it one more time. There's no display for power. That means you're on the medium power level mode. You hit function again. Now you can see right here in the lower corner the L symbol. At least I hope you can. And that is independent of VFO. So if I set the bottom VFO for high, come back up to this one, it's still at low. One feature that I really like about this radio, and I wish more would do it, is it lets you keep the backlight on all the time or automatically when a button's pressed, for example. I'll show you the menu setting for that. To get into the menu settings, you hit function and set, so A and 8. So function, we see the little envelope icon up top, then set. Now we're into our settings menu. You have the tuning knob up top to change settings, and you have the B and the C keys here to cycle through the menu settings. Right now we're having to be on light, so if I want to change that to auto or to off, just rotate the tuning knob up top. I like it on all the time, especially when I'm doing this video. That way I don't have to keep turning the light on and off. But let's run through some of the other menu functions while we're here. Okay, let's go through the menu settings here, how you get into the menu and what a few of the settings are. Hit your function key, you'll see the little icon up in the corner there, then set. To toggle through the menu items, B and C will take you up and down through the menu items. Your VFO knob will change the settings for that item. Tone, receive, 2-tone, 5-tone. Wide and narrow, bandwidth, reverse, talk around function. Your offset, you'd set this if you're doing a programming repeaters. Name. You can disable or enable any memory channel for transmit. There are channels you may want to monitor but not want to transmit on. Banks, so you got 10 banks, 0 through 9 in here, and that's banked link. I won't get into that, that's kind of complicated to show. Okay, this is where you program your function keys. You got PF1 and PF2 over on the left hand side there. So those are programmable. I like mine the way it came from the factory. PF1 to show the battery voltage, but you can also program your call frequency. FHSS, which they call frequency hopping spread spectrum. It's really just if you're using a similar radio, another AnyTone, it'll establish a link and then it'll jump to another frequency when you transmit back and forth each other. So it's kind of frequency hopping. I wouldn't call it spread spectrum. I think that's what that stands for. You can also program this to be the lower frequency or memory readout push to talk button. The alarm, which is this button right up here at top, or to monitor, basically open the squelch or not do anything at all. So I like voltage on that, and on PF2 I use it to open the squelch. Oops. Go back to that. Band off means whether you restrict the upper and the lower VFOs to VHF and or UHF band. I leave it off, that way you can enter any frequency into either the top or the bottom. I don't even know why this is in there, because it's easy enough to change frequency or memory readout on the two displays, whether you got key beeps or not. This is transmission timeout, 60 seconds, Vox, then this is the Vox delay. Auto power off, you can set the radio to power off after a certain amount of time. 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, or off. I don't use it, I can turn the radio off, I'll remember. DTMF tone duration, squelch, you can set that also individually for each memory channel. Scan, speed. F time is the function time, that's how long the function icon remains active when you hit the function key. You can make it go away after a few seconds if you like. Light on, auto, off, I like it on. You can change the default color on the background. Orange, I like orange. You also got a purple display, then you got the blue. They all work fine, that's pretty bright even in daylight. This is the radio ID functionality, 1750 hertz tone. Actually go back to this. Radio on, that's whether you can tune to the AM, FM shortwave bands. Then there's AM tuning has its own squelch. So when you're tuning in AM, this is the squelch setting you want to use to set the AM squelch. Subvolume. Some radios like my Wouxun do not have this. Since this is a dual receive 2-tuner radio, you can potentially be listening to 2 transmissions at once. You can set the volume of the lower VFO display to be different than the upper. They both track with the same volume knob. 8 is equal, and you can basically go anywhere from very quiet 8 steps of loudness as related to the upper display. And we're back around to the start of the menu settings. To get out of anything you're doing, whether you're the escape key, which I like, works great. It's kind of like a lot of radios have a key called exit, same functionality. And we're back to our frequency and memory display. This radio has the 7 NOAA weather radio frequencies pre-programmed in. It's not obvious at all how to get to it. I'll show you right now. Like most things, it starts with the press of the function key. See the indicator up top? Then your key lock, bank, pound symbol, that brings your radio or your weather up. Then from there, you can tooth through the 7 programmed radio ones for weather radio channels. The only one I receive well is that one in my office here. As always, escape to get back out. One of the unique features of this radio, and I'm not aware of any other radio that operates this way, is that it is FCC certified for Part 90 and Part 95. Part 90 is commercial use, Part 95 is GMRS. The way I want to show you how you get into that mode. Turn the radio off, hold PF2 button over on the left hand side right here, then power the radio on, keep holding PF2, get your welcome. Now you can choose which mode you want to operate the radio in. Either Part 95, GMRS, or MERS, which they're calling I think Part 90. So hit escape to get out of that, and the radio is now locked into MERS. You can choose the 5 MERS channels in the 151 to 154 megahertz range. The first 3 are narrow band. You'll see the N up top. Then 4 and 5 are wide band. You turn the radio back off and back on, and you're still in MERS mode. Okay. When you are in this or the GMRS mode, you cannot change hardly any settings at all. Basically, it's locking the radio down to be compliant with Part 90, I guess in this case. You can't enter a channel, 02 for example. You cannot change the power level. You can't do hardly anything. It's basically very restricted. So if you had an organization where you wanted to lock everybody's radio down to MERS, you could hand these out. Everybody would be legal. They would, unless they knew how to get into that mode, they would not be able to transmit outside of that band and that operating mode. To go back to any other mode, I'll show you GMRS real quick here. Part 95, same thing, hold PF2. Now I select normal is everything, then GMRS, escape. Now we can only tune through the GMRS channels. We can't make any power changes, tune the VFO. If you try to, nothing happens. You can't do anything else. You're operating on a single band, and that's all you can do. I don't know if power level changes. No, you cannot change the power level either. One thing I didn't show is that when you're in MERS mode, you're locked to the medium power level, which is 2 watts. That's the legal FCC limit for operating in that mode. So we're going to go back to normal mode, powered on while holding the PF2 key. Okay, let's go back to normal, wide open, escape. Now we're back into the wide open mode. Alright, one thing this radio will do besides transmitting in the VHF, UHF bands, receiving NOAA weather broadcasts, it will also receive AM broadcast, shortwave, FM broadcast, and aircraft AM bands. To get into those modes, you want to hit the function key and then FM. So function 1. And we're in FM mode. I don't know what I'm tuned to.
Plaguers bounce, putting this up on the map. It's like little rock to banging. Say mother that plaguing. They paying. We staying legging.
Okay, FM radio actually sounds pretty
Boys up
decent.
in this industry, outcast at them. They making big noise over a minute.
Not my style. A little bit tinny, but you know, it works. So once we're in the FM mode, we can also go to the AM modes, shortwave, AM broadcast, which might be called long wave or medium wave, I think, and AM aircraft band. To get to those bands, first, like we did earlier, function then FM to get into the FM mode, then basically just change the receive band. So function, then band. We are now in the AM aircraft band. I don't know if I'm going to pick up anything in here. I have received on this band. I know it works. Oh, almost got something. Very poor RF reception in my house. Hit function, band again. Now we're in the shortwave band, and this will tune, I forget the exact specs, but basically it's a shortwave receiver. It doesn't do upper or lower sideband, just plain old AM, but it covers a pretty wide frequency range. All the specs are on the AnyTone Tech website. Hit function, band again. This they call long wave. This is your regular broadcast AM. With this little antenna, the shortwave and the long wave bands, you are not going to pick much up at all. If you disconnect your antenna and put a long wire antenna, it actually picks up really well. At least on the local AM stations. I have not tried anything shortwave. To get out of this mode, hit escape. We're back into the normal radio mode again. You'll notice the FM is still blinking. It actually can receive on those bands while working on these two tuners. So we go back to FM here again. If I can remember how to do this. I think we just escape out. Yeah. So while you're working this, you can still have your radio playing and still transmit and receive if you like that sort of thing. Okay, to turn the FM blinking, turn that off. Just go in here, FM on, turn, oops, wrong to FM off. Okay, there we go. So B turns FM on and off, or AM bands, whichever one you're listening to. So FM's off right now. Hit escape out, turn the volume up, nothing. One feature of this radio is the ability to do duplex, meaning receive on one band and transmit on another while still receiving and without interrupting that reception. Another feature is crossband repeat. I've got 3 radios set up here. The Wouxun is set for 2 meter band. The we want to change that. The Kenwood set to the 70 centimeter band, and we got the AnyTone in the middle with 2 meter and 70. What happens is, right now it's a normal mode on the AnyTone. To put it into crossband repeat, you power the radio off, hold PF1 and B. So PF1 and B keys at the same time. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially when it's here. Turn it on. You see repeat on displayed. Now you got the flashing envelope icon up there. You cannot change anything on the radio. It is locked in. If you turn it off, turn it back on, you are still in crossband repeat mode. Now, this is on 2 meter, this is on 70 centimeter. If I key up on the 2 meter, it'll come up, it'll do crossband repeat through here, and you'll see the Kenwood light up. It's now receiving that. Works the same way around. If I key up the Kenwood on 70 centimeters, it'll crossband repeat through the AnyTone and show up on the Wouxun. And let me just identify myself. KG7 and XH testing. I'd like to be legal. Okay, so that's crossband repeat. Works great. I've also tested this. Everything I've shown you guys today, I have tested, and it really works pretty well. I've found no real flaws with the performance of the radio. It works very well, and the sensitivity is very good on it. I have not been able to test selectivity on this, but I am just what I've been using it for. I've not had any issues so far. Okay, what I'd like to do now is do a quick test to show the power output on VHF and UHF bands in the high, medium, and low settings. I have a power meter here. This is a Diamond SX400. It's not laboratory grade by no means, but I have found it to be pretty accurate and matches up well with ratings I have for other radios. So what we're going to do, let's put these both into VFO mode, and we'll do a quick power check here. Okay, we're starting on low power mode on the top VFO, the 2 meter band. Let's key up and see what kind of power we get. We're on the 5 watt scale, so the very lower range of numbers is what we want to look at. I'll just announce my call sign when I do this. KG7 and XH testing. Okay, so about a half a watt on this meter. Let's change the power up to the high settings, function, high-low. Okay, we're still on 2 meter. KG7 and XH testing. Okay, we can see there we were just over 5 watts, which this radio is rated at. And we'll go to the medium power setting. No icon there for the power, so that's how you know you're in medium. KG7 and XH testing. Right at 2 watts on that. Alright, so I've got about a half a watt, 5 watts, and 2 watts on my power meter on VHF. Okay, let's go down to the second VFO UHF band. We'll start out with I guess high power on this. Alright, so we'll do a quick key up here. KG7 and XH testing. Okay, right just above 5 watts on my meter. Go to the medium power setting, no indicator on the power. KG7 and XH testing. That looks closer to about 1.5 watts there. And the lowest power setting. KG7 and XH testing. Okay, a little over half a watt. Okay, so roughly 5 watts, 2 watts, and a half a watt is what we're seeing on the different power modes. The final thing I want to cover before we wrap up this review is the squelch mode on this. I have programmed PF2 to be the monitor button, and one thing I wanted to show, and I don't think I covered this earlier, is it'll toggle the squelch open and closed, but it also will give you a frequency readout if you're in VFO. Sorry, if you're in memory mode. So on the top display, the 2 meter call, if I hit the squelch, let me turn the volume down on how loud it is. It opens up the squelch, and it also displays the frequency assigned to that memory. So that's a quick, easy way to know what frequency you have assigned to a memory channel. Okay, that wraps up the review for this radio. I cannot possibly cover all the features and all the functionality that it has to offer, but I at least wanted to highlight some of the more important aspects of the radio. AnyTone Tech's website has accessories you can buy. They have the programming software available for download, which I have used to program a few channels in here on the lower VFO. Just some local repeaters in here. You can see the channel number, the call letters, plus or minus offset, etc. The software works well. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Chirp is also working on software for this radio. So if you have other radios that you program with Chirp, once they get their software developed, you'll be able to much easier exchange all your memories with your other radios. For now, the AnyTone software works great, but it's not really interoperable. It won't import CSV files, anything like that. But it does work. You can change all the settings on the radio, do all the menu programming, etc. with the AnyTone software. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review of the AnyTone Terminator two-way handheld radio. Thank you very much. And we're getting somebody coming in on the repeater.